President Trump and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell showing a rare support of unity. This coming ahead of the Senate's vote on a budget resolution Thursday of this week, which must pass in order to pave the way for tax reform. Republican leaders say reform is necessary. Watch this.
We're fighting for lower taxes, big tax cuts, the biggest tax cuts in the history of our nation.
The bills, the details of them, will be written by the Ways and Means and Finance committees after we approve the budget, and obviously the budget opens the path to tax reform. But it's about both reform and reduction.
You give middle-income taxpayers big tax relief, and you help those people who want to get into the middle class. You give them another leg up on that rung of the economic ladder so they, too, can get in the middle class. That's what real tax reform looks like.
Joining us right now to talk more about that, New Jersey Congressman and co-chairman of the Bipartisan Problem Solvers Caucus, Josh Gottheimer. Congressman, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
That's a good caucus, problem solver. How are you going to solve the problem of the pushback on tax reform to get to the road to passage?
Well, I think it starts by actually coming to the table together, Democrats and Republicans. Right now, there's been a lot of behind-the-scenes activity, and hopefully this next phase of it, we're actually going to bring Democrats and Republicans sitting together to figure it out.
So do you think Democrats will vote in support of this upcoming budget resolution? Is that what you're saying?
In the Senate? I mean, in the House, there's already been a vote. Now we're in the Senate.
Right, in the Senate.
And the Senate? No, I don't think you're going to get Democrats voting
No Democrats at all, obviously. So the show of unity yesterday, was that enough between the president and Mitch McConnell?
To get their votes they need today?
Yeah.
I mean, he can only afford to lose two, right? I mean, right now, I think. And there's a lot of questions. If you look, when I was reading this morning, it seems whether it's the deficit or how we're going to move forward on tax reform, those are the real questions hanging out there. When it comes back to the House, I think when we get tax reform back in the House, that's where, to me, the real debate begins.
So tell us how you see this bill moving forward, the tax bill, once you get through the budget.
Well, I think it starts with the details. Right now, we've seen an 8-page outline coming from New Jersey. I'll tell you, eliminating the state and local tax deduction is a huge problem for me and for many others in Congress. Right, it would be really favoring some states over others and a huge tax increase for people in New Jersey. So that part's really unacceptable.
So you're not going to vote for it if that's in there? If they eliminate that deduction?
I always like to actually see the bill before I say whether I'm going to vote or not. But that's why I'm eager to see the details that come out of the Ways and Means Committee. Our caucus has met with the chairman, with Chairman Brady.
Yep.
We've met with the president about it. Now it's time to actually see the details so we can all dig in and decide if it's something that we can get behind.
So how do you solve that problem? You're part of the Problem Solvers Caucus. What do you do on the state and local deduction? Is it you can't accept anything, or is there some cutoff that you might be able
I think
to
you're already seeing people back off of what they propose in the state and local tax deduction.
Yeah.
So, I want to see what they come up with. I want to see what that's most creative.
Right. Is there a cap? Whereas, your constituents, if they make more than $400,000, if they make more than $1 million, then you can accept that
Here's the problem. Half of the people in the state of New Jersey, make between $75,000 and $100,000, half who take the deduction. So my big concern is when we walk away and look at the details and when we check out all the pay-fors, how we're going to afford to lower taxes, which I want to do. The question is it all on the back of New Jersey and New York and Connecticut and 70 Republican members of Congress who are in those states? It's not just Democrats, right? That's why this is more of a regional issue. And why is everything targeted just at the state and local tax deduction? So you're going to give us an increase of taxes in New Jersey and give Florida a tax break?
And New York, too.
Right? And New York,
you're absolutely right.
You're going to drive people away from our economies and put it on the backs of ours. And if you're from Jersey, you're a payer state. You have these other states that take a lot and they pay a lot less into the kitty on their federal taxes.
You're paying more in than you're actually getting back.
Much more, right? In my district, you get back 33 cents for every dollar you pay in, which to me is unacceptable. And you've got other places like West Virginia.
If you don't get rid of that break, it's going to be hard to lower rates as much as Republicans say they want to lower them. So
what are you willing to do?
This is why the only details that I've seen so far is the state and local tax deduction. That's not enough to pay for this and do it in a way that's friendly to the deficit and actually deals long term. So my question is, when we get the details, when the Ways and Means Committee produces their draft, what other loopholes are we closing up? How are we going to pay for this?
When do you expect the details?
Well, apparently any day now. If we're going to be back next week. I'm very eager to. Apparently, we're going to see the details next week or somewhere before the end of the month. That's when I really think the debate begins.
Mm-hmm. And Congressman, you're a blue dog Democrat, which is almost becoming an extinction, right? And we see the Democrats moving further and further into socialism, and unity is such an important thing right now. What are you doing to bring all of these different factions together?
Well, so it's interesting. The bipartisan Problem Solvers Caucus, which I co-chair, it's now 24 Democrats and 24 Republicans. There's still a bunch of us left who are in the middle, and I'm actually working overtime to get more people in Congress who are in the middle. And people willing to actually sit down and talk to each other on both sides. You know, I think the extremes on the left and the right are disrupting the ability for us to actually have a conversation.
You make a good point, but I got to let you hear what Reagan economic advisor Art Laffer told me yesterday on this program. He had something to say regarding Democrats voting on tax reform. Listen to this.
I'm hoping the Democrats vote with it. They should vote with it. They believe in it. They want it. What they have to do is to let this partisanship go to that extreme that they'd vote against America is, to me, shocking. I can't imagine a lot of them not voting in favor of the president's bill. I just can't imagine it, but we'll have to see.
I mean, isn't it true that there are certain states that were won by President Trump, Heidi Heitkamp State, Donnelly State? I mean, isn't it true that if they vote against this tax package, if you vote against this tax package, aren't you going to see upset from your constituents?
Well, you also have 24, I think, people who were Republicans where Hillary Clinton won their seat. So both sides, you've got these seats where the Democrat or Republican could go either way. The question now is, how do you approach this? And which is why, to your point, why I said you can't just approach these things from a partisan approach. You have to be willing to work together. And that, by the way, means Republicans have to be willing to invite Democrats to the table. And you've got people like me who are willing to engage, who want to talk, who would be willing to cut taxes and obviously support tax reform. It's just got to look in a way that we can support it.
Do you think you're in the majority of the people that want to work together and have that bipartisan approach, or do you think you're in the minority?
I think on both sides, I'm in the minority, and that's what we're trying to change. Right? I mean, that's exactly the kind of attitude we're trying to overcome. But you've got 48 of us now who get together literally every single week we're in Washington and try to figure out where we can get to yes, and instead of just trying to beat each other up. And that's what I think the people want us to do. They want us to solve problems and accept an 80% solution and not insist on 100% or nothing.
But if you don't see tax reform this year, everybody gets blamed in Congress.
I think so. I think we need to get it done. But I think the wrong tax reform for New Jersey that hurts New Jersey is not something people want us to support. So that's why the details are going to matter here.
And in terms of the estate tax, what's your take on that?
Well, again, that's a pay for, right? I mean, there's many of us who really believe that we've got to deal with the estate tax. But the question,
double taxation, isn't it?
Right, just like the state and local tax deduction is double taxation. So to me, this is where the details of how we're going to pay for it are going to matter, and I think we're all interested to see how we're going to afford this.
Yeah, you're right, Congressman. This is an important battle that you're fighting. We'll be watching.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks so much for joining us, Congressman Josh Gottheimer there.